We are the Police Jury Association is an association for all the parishes in the state of Louisiana. There's a lot of issues right now facing local government. Naturally, all the sequestration event worries all of us. What's happening on the national level worries all of us in local government. Money is tight, which local government, we're responsible for so many things that a lot of people don't realize and don't see. We also have so many mandated expenses like providing a courthouse, a jail, taking care of inmates, all of this that is mandated expenses by the federal government that we have to pay for, we have to do. And so therefore, and they don't furnish the money for it, but they mandate us to do it. So it's a big expense. And right now, we're very worried with this tax proposal that the state's working on, due to the fact that with what we heard today from Tim Bradley from the state office, we're very worried that it can harm us big time for our local taxes. So, in other words, say the state cuts out some of the taxes that we're getting, and then they come up with a sales tax. Well, most of our parishes have a sales tax or have millage tax also on properties that are above the homestead exemption. Well, guess what? If the state comes up with a state sales tax, we try to come up then with a parish sales tax or even try to get an existing tax renewed. Our big worry is that the constituents is going to say, oh no, enough's enough. And if we can't get our local taxes renewed or passed, then it's going to devastate parishes and local government.
My concern with the tax reform is, in particularly in my district, I have my own sales tax. So will I have trouble to, well, this particular tax here, I don't have to go back to a re-election to get it approved. But in other districts, they have to go bring it back to the people. How much trouble will it be to renew this tax if we go to the taxing system that he wanted to do now within the government?
We all want to look at reform and embrace reform. But man, there's a huge concern when they talk about inventory taxes. If they would take our inventory taxes and don't make it up somehow, we stand to lose 40% of our revenue. St. James Parish cannot afford to lose 40% of their revenue and maintain the level of services we provide. So other outstanding issues, man, I'm going to tell you, we think we are blessed in St. James Parish as it is. The natural gas fines is like, oh my God, we're going to have some wonderful things happening in our parish. Got a lot of companies looking at us, looking to locate in our parish. It's huge, gigantic industries looking to come on board, so we welcome that.
My big concern is the tax reform. I don't know what kind of effect that would have on us locally. We're going to take a real close look at that and try to give input from our parish to make sure and that we can take the impact as lightly as we can.
With the reform of the income tax structure, certainly we're for a tax reform, but again, we have to look at how it affects local government and our ability to deliver the services that our citizens have come to deserve and expect. Jobs, certainly in Jefferson Parish, the construction of the expansion and widening of the Huey-P. Bridge is going to be to our parish what the Superdome was to Porters. It's going to be a catalyst for future economic growth and development. That's where our growth area is on the west bank of Jefferson between the Harvey Canal and the St. Charles Parish line. On the challenging side, we're working with Avondale, Huntington Ingalls, and the state and local economic development commissions to help Avondale reposition itself to go after the offshore oil industry and to preserve those highly skilled jobs at the Avondale shipyard.
We're looking at a state as a whole to everybody work together. Well, we have some major cuts coming down in Baton Rouge, and that's going to affect how we govern Caddo Parish. And the main thing right now is jobs, getting new jobs. Looking at the tax base, how is it going to affect us from Baton Rouge to Caddo, and how will we have to adjust to that? And it's all going to take a team effort to make sure everybody comes out ahead.
You mentioned cuts coming out of Baton Rouge affecting your area. Tell us about that.
One of the main ones I'm working on is the movie industry. A lot of things have come across that they may be cutting those giveaways. The movie industry right now in Louisiana is growing. We've got some major projects coming up this year in Caddo. Just had some major projects finish up. So that's one thing that we have jobs, we have revenue that we don't want to see go away. And Baton Rouge needs to know that, along with the oil and gas and some other issues that we're working on.
Our biggest issue right now is the Department of the Army downsizing on Fort Polk. We've been working on that several weeks now. So that's our biggest issue.
What kind of an economic impact does Fort Polk have to all of central Louisiana?
Fort Polk has a big impact on all of Louisiana, just about as a whole. It's one of the largest payrolls in the state.
What do you feel needs to be done?
I feel that with all we got going on with Fort Polk and all the building going on, I feel like that we shouldn't be cut that much. You know, this will be devastating to us.
What kind of an impact would that have on your parish and central and all of Louisiana?
On our parish, I mean, if Fort Polk downsizes what they're talking about, we'd be in serious trouble right there in our parish.
It would have a huge impact for the state, and most especially for Vernon Parish and for Beauregard, my parish, because we get a lot in Beauregard, we get a lot of the overflow from Fort Polk for people living, buying homes and living in Beauregard. It will not affect us near as bad as it will Vernon Parish. It'll devastate Vernon Parish, but it will also be a very harmful thing for Beauregard and for the rest of the state. Because like we heard earlier, Fort Polk right now is the sole largest employer in the state of Louisiana. So therefore you are talking about huge tax dollars that goes all over the state, not just in Beauregard and Vernon, but it affects the whole entire state. So therefore, if they cut Fort Polk like they're talking about right now, which we're fighting to prevent that from happening, but it could still happen. If this happens, it will be very, very devastating for Vernon Parish, Beauregard Parish, and will be very harmful for the state as a whole.
I will say that for our area in Calcasieu Parish, because of the fiscal responsibility, I have to believe that we're probably one of the few parishes in the state of Louisiana that has zero debt. Not even a bond issue. No debt. And we keep about $40 million back in case we have another Hurricane Rita, that you have to start picking up and cleaning and doing what you've got to do. So we're fiscally responsible. That's the way it should be. But the only reason it is because the people of Calcasieu Parish have given us the funds to work with. And when you treat them right, then they treat you right. So it's all about the people.
Big issues in my parish is economic development. We must do all that we can to ensure that we can enhance our parish economically so we can put all of our citizens to work. We have young people that are graduating high school and college, and we must find places for them to make sure that they can participate within our parish and strengthen our parish. And also, Caddo Parish is fortunate. We are blessed. We have ample reserves. We just achieved a AAA bond rating in 2012, which is unheard of with local government. However, we are cautiously optimistic with the money that we have, and at this point in time, the proposal to change the tax structure in Louisiana, we're definitely going to take that a hard look, because we aren't going to do anything that are going to cause our parishes to regress.
In this legislation, one of my concerns were in the health care. the state hospitals, which I know there are 5 of them that they have transformed into privatization. My concern is how will that affect the individuals that normally go to these centers. Also, our health clinics. There are going to be cuts there. There won't be nurses, and I'm assuming that government is looking for the parishes to take over these issues, and I would like to see it stay with the state instead of keep putting the burden on the parishes.
Our major issues are roads. Our infrastructure is very deplorable. The conditions, our roads are bad, and our school system right now is suffering. So we are ranked the last in the state for the last couple of years. So we are trying to get our school system up to date so it could feed our economic growth.
I think we're all learning a little something more than what we are accustomed to our day-to-day operations, such as whether it be if you're running a landfill or if you're emergency response, your roads, your bridges, on and on. I mean, there's so many things out there that we deal with every day. And to hear people that comes, that's in the authority, to explain to us how maybe cut some corners, maybe get rid of some of that tape, the red tape. And I think that really is very helpful, and especially where we've had disasters. Now, we are more prepared to address those disasters. We're more prepared to help fix those roads because there's new technology out there that we pick up at these conferences. And so I feel like I'm very fortunate that I'm able to attend a conference such as this, especially when you're dealing with the people, you're out there working with the officials from the state level, the federal level, on down to the parish level. And you're talking with your other parish presidents or your other elected officials, and that is very, very helpful. And to me, it's helpful to know that the state agencies are on board with the Police Jury Association, that we're all working together for the betterment of our parish and our citizens that we represent.
There's an opportunity at this date and time to do some things to improve sales tax administration, to partner and have better coordination between what local sales tax administrators and our sales tax administration has done. There's a number of areas where that benefits the state in terms of being ready for any federal internet sales tax solution, sales and use tax solution that may come about. It also helps us coordinate and perhaps do audits and collections on a more coordinated standpoint. And that not only helps business out in terms of the interface and a number of times they do, I think that's going to improve collections. It's going to improve how we are perceived and how effective we are in administering the sales tax laws and collecting those revenues from both the state and local standpoint.
It's a bill dealing with the internet tax collection for local governments. A lot of internet sales are not subject to the local sales taxes, and so local communities are losing revenue. Bills have been introduced in the House and Senate on this, and we're going to see how those go. I know part of the Louisiana tax reform effort is to be in a position to be able to collect that money if that were to happen. So. We'll be looking at this. I'll have to look at exactly what these bills look like to see whether they're good or bad, but that is something that will be coming up for discussion.
What kind of financial pressure does that put on local government to be able to lose all that tax revenue that's estimated somewhere between $400 and $800 million in Louisiana alone?
Well, local governments are dealing with severe budget problems. When you look at the need for a fire station or to fix roads and sewer systems, they're struggling, and raising taxes is tough right now. They want to just be able to collect the tax that they're owed, and so that's what this comes down to.
As we heard today about the internet tax, that's big for parishes and for counties. That's a big issue for us. We are very, very frightened in many counties about sequestration because of the movement of a lot of troops and a lot of money out of many of our larger counties and smaller counties. That's all over, sequestration. The fiscal cliff, we're worried about that. The debt ceiling. Money, we're all on hold to know what is going to happen with monies, and that goes across the entire budget.
A lot of things affect local government. One thing I'm very focused on is infrastructure, both highways and water resources, the Corps of Engineers. Every jurisdiction in this meeting deals with those challenges with building infrastructure, highways, and also dealing with the Corps of Engineers regulation. And I serve on a committee of jurisdiction for all that, so I want to fully partner with everyone here to make that work a whole lot better than it has in the past.
You've been active in the area of reform of the Corps of Engineers, getting them to move quicker. What's the kind of progress are we making?
Well, we haven't made enough. We need to make a lot more. Right now, I'm working on a water resources bill that'll contain a lot of elements of Corps of Engineers reform. It's a bipartisan bill. A draft will come out in about 2 weeks. We hope to mark it up in committee, on which I'm the top-ranking Republican in March, and then go from there.
We discussed transformation of the LSU hospital system, the focus on enhancing graduate medical education and keeping access to care for people that need the care, at the same time saving money and being able to make those hospital systems more sustainable. We talked about some of the privatizations that DHH has done with facilities, and the president, Pat Brister, was here from St. Tammany Parish, and we had a great discussion because we did a presentation for a mental health hospital earlier last year in her parish, and it's turned out to be exceptionally successful. It's exactly what we planned for it to be. There's hiring going on. The number of beds are expanding that are in her facility, and DHH saves money, and we're expanding access. So those are the examples of what's happening in the healthcare system, the innovations that are occurring for facilities. We also discussed what's happening in Medicaid. The introduction of Bayou Health last year is leading to cost savings. At the same time, we're seeing gains made in the efficiency of care and the quality of care being delivered. Lastly, we talked about mental health. Everyone always has a great concern of mental health. We talked about over the last 4 years that we actually have increased spending in mental health, one of our big areas of investment, by 30%. We talked about the number of beds available for adults on Medicaid in Louisiana now has gone from 1,200 to 2,200 in our state. And lastly, the use of the 1-800 number and comprehensive case management is providing access to more people in more areas around the state, and that's a very good message for people to get so they can educate their parishes as well.
Talked a lot about the budget and about the budget for tourism and how tourism is an industry for Louisiana. It means jobs for Louisiana. 1 out of every 11 people in the state works in the tourism industry, and we're anxious to make sure we keep the great trend that we see going in tourism in Louisiana, but we have to make sure we're competitive with other states in our advertising and marketing effort out of state. And I talked about the budget issues we're facing in state parks with significant cuts in state parks and some issues that relate to draining our repair and maintenance fund and using it for operating expenses, which is something that's happened over the course of the past several years that is a great concern to me, because if we don't have the money that's dedicated to repair and maintain the parks, we can't keep them in service, and therefore we can't bring the people to Louisiana to spend money, and we can't allow our citizens the opportunity to use the parks and generate the income that's needed to sustain what we're doing.
Is there anything you'd like to add about how this affects local government?
Well, it affects local government in a significant way, particularly in North Louisiana, where we have so many of our parks in rural, sparsely populated areas, and in many cases those parks may be a major attraction for those small parishes, particularly along the I-20 corridor. Parks bring people to the park and bring people to a particular parish, and they're often out spending money in other places in the parishes, generating income for each respective parish. So, as is often the case in government, everything's kind of symbiotic. Everything's bears on one another and has a relationship, and state parks are a big part of what we do in the Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism, and we want to make certain they continue to be an asset for the people of our state.
Police juries supply the expenses, the medical expenses, and housing for juveniles and adults in a lot of the areas in the state. And people are interested in how much it costs to try a case and why we have so many people in jail. And so that's what I have talked about here today for at least this one session.
Today I was talking to parish folks about open burning regulations and ozone advance. Open burning is a very important issue that all parishes face, whether it's during or after an emergency or on a normal daily basis, and I just wanted to make sure they understood all the rules, regulations, and exemptions.
We've got some successes with here in Louisiana in the way that we do our emergency response and recovery. So it was great to have FEMA here with us also, as some changes have been made to the Sandy legislation, which impact the Stafford Act, which are going to be beneficial to Louisiana residents. So it was a great experience to be here.
This is really a great opportunity. We were allowed to interface with the true elected officials in the parishes and talk about how we can enhance fire protection, EMS, and emergency services within communities. You know, these communities do a phenomenal job of providing services, but when you talk about fire protection, when you talk about the abilities for firefighters and emergency personnel to maneuver around communities and save lives and save property, collaborations like today where we can talk about initiatives like improving fire ratings, we can talk about initiatives like recruitment and retention of fire personnel. You know, these are all very important topics that we discussed today.
We're there to help them in their day-to-day needs in the insurance arena. Whether it's workers' comp, health insurance, property insurance, Stafford Act requirements, all of those things affect local government from an insurance point of view on a daily basis. And that's what we're there to do. We serve business and consumers and government agencies with all of their insurance needs.
I would love for people to keep in mind that we are here working for our local constituents and for people all over the state and all over each parish. And I would hope that people would remember that, you know, we're not here and we're not serving to get rich, because we're serving because we want to improve our parish and our state. And I would like for people to remember that and for them to think, look, we need to get behind our local servants and we need to support them because they are working for us, and the only way it will work if we support and help them.
It's important to contact your legislative council. Tell them and push for what's your parish or as a whole, as a state, what's needed. Without you going and knocking on those doors or making those phone calls to them, they don't know what's needed.
Everybody's on the same page as far as where Louisiana needs to go. We have some elections coming up in a couple of years. That's new people are going to be here. We're going to lay the foundation of what we need to do as a whole, from north, south, east, and west to Louisiana, to make sure even our congressmen in Washington know Louisiana is moving forward.
Please contact our Police Jury Association in Baton Rouge and go to their website.